Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We will wait for 1 more minute so that the attendees could join in before we start with the session. So kindly be patient and we'll start very soon. Thank you. Yeah, good to start. Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you and welcome to this session. I'm Sourav Mishra and I'm part of National SME team at NASSCOM. I'm leading various SME related initiatives that NASSCOM does for its SME member. And today we have with us Mr. Maulik Bhansali, who is going to moderate the session today. And he's the founder CEO of NetWeb Software Vadodara. He has been associated with NASSCOM for close to 15 years now and has been in various leadership role along with NASSCOM for last 5 years. So within the SME Council, we have 4 major vertical under which we are driving various initiatives, and one of that vertical is being talent. And Maulik Bhai is leading that piece from the NASSCOM side. And we have a host of initiatives targeted to, particularly for upskilling and reskilling of the entire employees in the SME ecosystem. And Women in Tech campaign is one such initiative where we are driving one such initiative where we are looking to, reskill and upskill the women workforce who are working in the SME sector, in particularly in the technology area. So under that program, we regularly planning to hold career development sessions for our women colleagues from the industry. And this session is, second such session under that chapter. So now I would like to request Mr. Maulik Bhai to introduce the guest speaker and start the discussion. Over to you, Maulik Bhai.
Sourav.
1 second.
Sourav.
Audio. Yeah.
Sourav.
Yeah.
Sourav, can you hear me? This is Maulik.
Yes.
Sourav, your voice is very choppy.
So I can hear you, sir. I can hear you.
Sourav, your voice was very choppy.
Couldn't
hear you. But it's okay. We can continue. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Good. Maulik, you can start with the discussion.
Yeah, good.
I think we lost him again. Oh,
Okay, what I'll do, Sourav, I'll take over from here and continue with the introduction as well as with our discussion. Okay.
Sure, sure.
You're okay?
Yeah, sure.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, yes.
All right, good. Thank you, thank you. So, good morning, friends. Great to have you all over here. And my warm welcome on behalf of NASSCOM to Rucha Nanavati. Sourav, thanks for organizing this for us. It has been really fantastic, campaign that we've been running for our women colleagues in SMEs especially, right? And as part of that, we are, of course, bringing the resources and the Future Skills Prime resources, especially for upskilling and reskilling of our women colleagues. However, it's equally important to kind of share the insights, the experience when it comes to professional skills. And we've been doing that. The first session that we had a few days back, about a month back, by Vidisha was so very well received, where we had talked about what different challenges that really our women colleagues really face and how to handle those, including some insights that were shared on leadership, right? But how about having a very specific talk on leadership and how do we really build those, especially for our women colleagues from none other than Rucha. And Rucha Nanavati, she's joined with us from the US today. Thanks, Rucha, for making your time available for us. It's so nice of you to really even wake up like 3 a.m. when we had our sync up call the other day in preparation for this session today. So we really appreciate your commitment and your passion towards this. Talking about her, she's the Chief Information Officer at Mahindra Group. She's a global leader with very, very rich and vast experience in enabling business strategies through technology solutions. She has successfully led transformations in multiple different domains including high-tech, retail, and manufacturing as well. She is developing large global cross-functional teams, which is so very tough. I mean, these days, especially when we talk about how we all are working remotely during pandemic times, you really want to understand how she has been doing that on that side, which is not just challenge for our women leaders alone, but for us overall, right? So having said that, she has previously worked at technology roles at Albertsons, Motorola, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. She carries very vast experience. So I know while we have questions for us, but I think the best would be to hear from her experience, from her knowledge, from her past experience and future that she is looking at. And she can share her thoughts and experience to us, as well as some few good nuances from her practical experiences that she had and make our session so very enriching today. So thank you, Rucha, again. Anything that you would like to start with, any opening remarks that you have, Rucha, today as we talk?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. I think it is fantastic to be part of this NASSCOM event for a subject as rich and vast and dear to my heart as leadership, and that too for in a series that says women in tech. I'm very, very passionate about adding diversity, empowering women, and super thrilled to be here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's our pleasure. We have been joined by many women colleagues from SMEs, several times we kind of think that possibly leadership role changes maybe with the size of the businesses, right? But there are few important attributes which really do not change, right? It remains same across the type or the size of the businesses, and we want to certainly bring into light which these characteristics or which these attributes are, which are very important for our women colleagues, therefore to develop leadership skills. And I would like to understand more from you on those. So taking this discussion forward, what is really why, especially when we talk about leadership, I mean, leadership, there are different types and different ways people really lead, right? When it comes to tech leadership and team leadership, especially at a which is not so what do you call higher up in the organizational responsibility, but yet at a level where you are responsible for a team to deliver, right? What are the different attributes that really one needs to possess to be able to do so?
So you very well articulated, Maulik, that some are these fundamental traits of a leader, and that starts as you start becoming a leader, whether you're actually on paper a leader or not, you end up influencing people to get your work done, and there you are. You have some leadership role going, right? And if you talk about people who are starting out in leadership role, right? Not very vast. So
exactly, yeah.
Even there, some things are fundamental. I think clarity of vision of your goal, it helps to motivate your team to get to the same goal, right? To be able to direct your team, however small it is, to the goal, it helps. The other thing which is extremely fundamental is how you treat other people. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated. The one other thing I believe, and I just don't want to give a long list, we can go on and on, but is I have always believed that I own it up, that I'm never the best, I'm never the perfect. I own it up. And that's why we surround ourselves with smart people to get things done. So when we make a mistake, we own it up. And that shows your sincerity as a leader to your teams. And it is important when it's a small team that you're all, you're going toward the same goal, so have the clarity of vision of where you want to go. I think treat others, it's all about people. Leadership is all about how you're able to corral people, bring them together and deliver what you need to deliver. Integrity is fundamental for anything you do. I think, can't go anywhere without it. The other two things I would talk about, and I believe that women fare better in that. One is empathy, and the other is influencing others. I think women are generally more empathetic by nature. It's a scientifically proven fact, without taking sides, I can say that generally speaking, more empathetic. That helps you because that connects you with your team members a little better, potentially. And influencing, officially or unofficially, we end up influencing people when you want to get anything done from anyone, leadership or not. The more you're able to influence people, the more you're able to bring them together and deliver what you need to deliver. And even there, one thing I have noticed that we all have different styles of influencing. Some may have a very, very regimented style about influencing. Some may have a casual style about influencing. Find your own style. Copying somebody else. There was an era, I think, in between where women sort of, if you wanted to be a leader, you wanted to look like another male leader. I don't believe that is true anymore. That is not true anymore. I think it's very vast and good understanding that women are leaders in their own ways and achieving same results. So find your own style of leading is what I would say.
Very, very well said. I think these are very important aspects, but do you see any specific challenges which really women colleagues should be aware of, which maybe as compared to a male colleague, possibly they may not have or they may have, and which are those, and how do you really overcome as you enter into leadership roles?
There are challenges. I will not shy away from that. I will not say that there aren't. In fact, we were just talking about this before, right, Maulik, that I moved to India about a year ago, started working in that environment, and I see the difference in the environments. So I believe consciously there may not be an issue, but we have to be aware of our blind spots. Unconscious biases remain.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it only remains in men. There may be in women as well. We ought to be aware of it and try and overcome it, right? So people who are not, and it could be as simple as something like, hey, I always go and meet, every Friday I go to the bar and hang out at 6 p.m. Well, I only had men in my team, and that was okay. That was our, let's chill, let's have a drink kind of thing. Women may have a little different priority, right? And it could be like, let's go change that to a lunch,
Right.
So there are these things that there may be some even conscious challenges. I'm not denying that either, but the unconscious ones are tougher to tackle because you don't even know they're there, right? So what I would say is speak up. Don't be left out. Don't say that, oh, I can't ever go on Friday. You say, I can't go on Friday, but I would like to. Can we arrange something that works for all of us? So if you don't speak up, it is not possible for somebody to help or change something.
Right.
And they're not doing it intentionally. These are unconscious, unintentional biases sometimes that do exist. I also see that sometimes there are people who are not used to having women bosses. It'll take a little bit of getting used to. So give them space, give them chance, and give them guidance if needed.
Great.
Right?
So it's not necessarily to follow the same mold that has been possibly left behind or that has been thought of conventionally.
I would rather go against it. Do not follow a mold that has been there conventionally. Because if I see tech industry right now, there's hardly anything conventional going on. Right? Technology is such an equalizer. I'll tell you one thing I feel personally quite strongly about this. What I used to know technology-wise 20 years ago is not really what I need today. If I don't keep up with technology, it is such an equalizer, right? Yes, I have experience. Yes, I have worked more with people. I know how to navigate situations, right? That is there. But technology is quite an equalizer because it changes so fast. So keeping up with that will automatically give you the edge. So I highly advise against doing the same old conventional way of doing things.
Great. And how does it really matter with the problem-solving capabilities in terms of the abilities and capabilities that really women colleagues really carry? And are there any specific ways of doing so? Because I heard one very important perspective is about how the male colleagues would really feel if there is a female leader around. And does problem solving get more difficult, more complex? How do you deal with such a situation if there is?
I don't believe there is anything specific about problem solving that would be difficult. It is just, working environment that we all have to be more inclusive on. Problem solving skills, I think they remain universal. They are the same. One thing about, I would twist that a little bit in leadership and say conflicts or something. If they're problem solving from leadership perspective, I believe women are a little bit ahead. I tell you, I strongly believe women are capable of being the most compassionate person in the room and at the same time the badass person in the room. So situational leadership, if you master that, I think women have an upper edge on that for sure, because we are naturally, we sort of played the caregiver role for a long, generations and generations and generations, still do. And at the same time, nobody should really think that we can't be tough. We can be a bully when it's required. So in the same breath, you can be the strongest person and the most compassionate person in the room. And that certainly helps when you're navigating situations, bringing people together.
That's very important. That's very interesting perspective that you really brought situation. If you may want to elaborate a bit on that. What does that really mean?
Yeah, see, I think the leadership, I have seen, at least my personal experiences, leadership kind of molds with the type of people you're in, the type of situation you're in,
right,
the type of pressures you are under.
Right.
And it's not always the same formula that will work.
Right.
Right. If I always have this, we go step by step and we execute one thing after the other, and that's it always worked for me, and that's how we'll go. I'll give instructions and people will follow it or something like that. That might work when it's a very well-defined set of work. You can give clear instructions, people will do it. In some other ways, you're strategically thinking, you are brainstorming with your team, you are coming up with ideas, you're inviting conflicts sometimes, right? In that case, it's a different way of leading that team through that has to come out. And when the stakes are very high, you are talking about something to be delivered absolutely on time, can't miss anything. There's a little bit of different regimented approach that comes in. All of that always with full empathy, but more on motivation and influencing people is what I believe in generally. But you do have different ways of achieving the thing. And I do believe we have to use our people, our teams the best way. Very often you'll find that a person who wasn't doing so great in one certain type of job or role, you give them something else and they'll excel at it.
Right.
Right. So that is also, as leaders, our responsibility to understand the strengths.
Right.
Use them. Right. Give opportunity to use their strengths.
So over a period of years, what I've been observing, there is of course change in leadership style across more from command and control to more interactive in nature. And I believe therefore this change or this need of change is where, very, very good attributes and specifics like empathy, for example, you mentioned, and good and high emotional quotient that really comes into
100%. I have never, I've been very fortunate. I've had really, really good leaders who have helped me form, my leadership style and mentored me and so on. And somewhere I've also come across people who were very, sort of authoritative leadership, very command and control type. I've never related with them very much. Those are not the leaders that I still keep in touch with. I come to US for a break, say for example, and I come and reach out to the people I work with and my leaders I work with. Those are not the people that I reach out and still keep in touch. So these are very much about the leadership style that is more interactive, that is more inviting, that is more inclusive from thought process perspective and ideas.
Which is more involving in
everyone, yourself, right? Yourself, you're able to
do
that. When you have large teams, you have to lead through leaders, right? So it is equally important then to pick your leaders right properly. And to make sure that the clarity of vision or your goals, your principles, your purpose, your values are very well understood for the next level for it to then trickle down. So larger teams and organization does demand a little bit more structured approach, right? A smaller team where you are able to do this on one-on-one with every single person in your team is a little easier on process and all. You don't have to worry so much about process structure.
Right.
The larger teams demand that a little bit more. Delegation is important. You have to understand that you are going to execute through your leaders.
Right. That's executing through leaders, right? So how do you come into that role? Possibly you pick leaders or you mentor your people that you trust. What do you do?
Both, absolutely both. I think at any point of time, I'm a huge believer of mentoring people, and I think I'll sort of bring back another point that I had said. Recognizing your team members' strengths will help you put them in the right place. So people who have potential to become leaders, who are able to, bring people together. So understanding the strength and then mentoring them with their opportunities will certainly, bring you your next level of leadership.
That's really, true for all. And I'm not specific. The question wasn't really very specific to women leaders alone and the women colleagues alone. I think that's very true that, the sizes, of course, of the teams define possibly the way you execute. More importantly, how you delegate. Building trust is one very important thing as you drive through leaders, right? How do you do that, Rucha? I know, of course, there are ways and means of making sure that you delegate and verify, right? Or you delegate and validate.
Yes.
But there is an element of trust as well somewhere, isn't
Yes.
it? And how do you balance the both? How do you do that?
Absolutely. I think most practically speaking, some of it comes with experience of working with each other, with one another, right? Also, as I said, when there are smaller teams, or even you executing through your leaders, working with them, establishing that rapport, that style of working with each other helps a great deal. And you can only do that so far when the organizations are especially so big. Like even I'm sure even in SME environments, right? The reason you have a team is so that you can do something else and everybody kind of carries the load and you can achieve more. So you can't keep verifying every little thing. You kind of, as you're starting to work together, you'll all establish a rhythm to say, I understand that this person, once I give it, I don't have to look at it again. They will bring back the whole thing wrapped up. Somebody else, very good at what they do, but needs to be reminded once in a while. But I know my work will get done. So understanding your teams and working with them in their style as well. I every time a lot of people ask me, have you settled in your role, right? That you join new and all that. And I say, yeah, it's a two-way thing. I settle some, people settle some. So it's a joint relationship that comes together, and that establishes the trust. One thing I always do is I'm very clear about what my style is, right? And then I ask, how do you like to work? And if there are any things that are clearly not matching, then we go ahead and adjust. That's always possible. There's nothing written in stone. But if there's clarity about it, just don't keep things unsaid when you don't like something, is what I would recommend. Like women tend to do that. We sort of we'll figure it out later.
Okay.
I agree, we figure it out later, give it some time. But if it is still not working, it is better to open up and discuss and settle it rather than sort of keep it going for a long time.
Okay. How do you build this transparency in the entire frame? I mean, you mentioned about speaking out, calling out, bringing it out in the light and in the perspectives. How do you build this transparency overall? And I think what you mentioned earlier about having to adjust with the leadership styles as well, right? But then how do you bring that along with transparency? Because it is at the end of the day, when it comes to adjusting from both the ends, right? Where do you meet that? Where do you really kind of go and meet that? What is that meeting point?
So when you talk about transparency comes in when there is this trust that mistakes are also okay, accepted. And in fact, rather, when that is happening, I'm going to stand behind you.
Okay, correct.
That's where the trust and transparency comes from, right? That we own it together, we succeed together, we fail together. That when you're able to convey this to your team. That's when the transparency comes in. That's when the trust comes in. And that comes in from both sides.
Great. I think we fail together, we succeed together. Is that a form of more of involving an interactive style of leadership, Rucha?
Very much.
Have you seen that being changed over the period of years with your experience, and how has that been? I mean, any examples that you may want to share, or out of your professional experience?
Yes, I have been fairly fortunate to mostly have had those kind of leaders. Very, very seldom I've had those who said, you did that and you go figure it out now, right? So that has formed my leadership style as well in similar way that, otherwise what happens is you will have people hiding the real problems.
Right.
Now they can only be hidden for so long. They will catch up and then they'll surprise you rather than having it all out and open and you're able to resolve it in time. Right. So I'm having a hard time looking for an example that was the other way. But yeah, several examples where, very open discussions about, yes, we need to make a decision. I have only these many data points.
Right.
And we will make with these many data points. And boss, there are things that I don't know. We'll still collectively, I still recommend we do this.
Right.
We go with it. And if it doesn't work out, then here's my plan B.
Is there an element of being assertive the other way? And how do you, when it comes to discussions, or when it comes to, sharing different viewpoints, and how do you still drive your objective or as a goal that you mentioned, how do you do that? I mean, do you need some sort of capabilities, or what are the, how do you really manage to do those things? How do you manage to drive your, vision, yet understanding the team very well, and seeing that they are on your side, and they buy your vision and your goal?
Yes. So one is, I don't believe that conflicts or conflicting ideas are always bad. I in fact, sometimes invite that, I want to hear different ideas from mine so that it's a better balancing act rather than somebody saying, yes, yes, yes. That is really bad. If you get into that situation, then it's a command and control. Nobody's ever going to say anything. You may be really headed for a cliff and no one will stop you, right? You want a team who's going to say, absolutely not, Rucha, can't go that way at all, right? So that I certainly want to, at least my attempt is always that, want to hear different ideas. When you listen, first of all, without, it's easier said than done. I have, trained myself over time to really, really listen without trying to, even without trying to convince somebody otherwise. First, simply listen, right? And that usually gives me understanding of what is their point of view. And if I truly believe that a different point of view is better or the right one, if I know yours, I have better chance of changing it. And that's the influencing, inviting ideas. So everybody feels heard. That is very important. I believe that is one of the most important traits as well. And influencing because you have data, because possibly you have experience, because you have done your research, because you have the skill set. I think the fundamentals don't change. You got to believe in what you are saying because you have all these things under that, right? The content matters always. Content always matters. What we are talking about is the style, the influencing, the empathy that you bring to the table.
Fantastic. While we are discussing, I request all our friends, colleagues, participants here to post the questions if there are any in the chat or in Q&A box, so that we can take those up, and we'll be very happy to discuss those points for the questions that you may have. So I request everyone to really start posting their questions if you have. I see a few there, and we can start taking up those in a couple of minutes. Yeah. And in the meantime, Rucha, how do you kind of balance your life and work? I mean, it's a very classic question, right? And I heard some time back from a tech leader, it's not about balancing the both. It's about how you bring in sync the both. No?
Yes.
Do you believe that? And being a women leader yourself, a top leader yourself, how do you handle this?
So,
what do you do?
one thing is, I urge you to ask the same question to all the men that you interview as well, because this should not be just a woman thing.
I agree.
I have a issue with that.
I agree.
I think, yes, I think it's a what is important at what point of time in your life,
right,
thing, in my opinion. Yes, you bring it together. I think it's a very, I don't believe we live in a world where we can say, well, 9 to 5
correct,
is my work hours, and after that it is family. You know, it is tough to do that, especially with technology. You know, a CIO can't say, I won't take my calls after 5 o'clock. Something is down somewhere, you got to go attend to it, right? So I have had time in my life when I had to step back a little bit, and it was fine. It was fine. I was again very fortunate to have leaders who accommodated that. Said, you know, for a few months, can you just, I don't want to be on the front line. Can you help me something that is not as challenging? And that is perfectly fine. That is totally okay. So go ahead and do that. I would say, but one thing I would encourage women not to do is don't give up altogether. Right? If you don't step up and ask that I need a little bit of breathing room, they won't give you, right? How does someone know that you need to do that? On the other side, I would also encourage everybody not to assume something. Don't assume that, oh, because she has a young child, she doesn't want to do that. Let her decide. She may have help. She may have mother and mother-in-law and father-in-law living together, and they're all happy to, be with the grandkid, doting over the grandkid. And she may be totally up for a challenge.
Right.
So on both sides, I urge not to give up, right? Ask for help. I keep saying this again and again. I hope somebody's mind, this is going to stick, that speak up.
Right.
Don't keep it in your mind, and don't keep getting confused. So I think balance is an equation of what's going on in your life at the time. Right. It's always bringing it together. It's not necessarily, I've never been able to compartmentalize it. I don't know. I've made best friends at work. And they're lifetime friends. So and that's my personal life. So there's nothing like this here and this there.
So that's really very interesting. And I think what you mentioned earlier, I completely agree with that. And that's the perspective which I wanted. And you spoke it out very well at the start of your point that you made here. It should not, this question is not just for women alone, but for men as well. And I take that and agree with that perspective. That's exactly what I wanted for our colleagues here, our friends here to hear. And you said it. And speak out, really, right? Isn't that's most important thing, because unless you really do that, no one's going to be understanding what you're looking for, what you stand for, and also people can come to help, right?
They come up with new, different ideas. They come up of various ways of helping you as well, right? Some options that you never thought were possible are you may come across. And I'll say, always do this respectfully, with utmost understanding of what the work is. It's not about escaping out of anything or shortchanging your job or anything like that, but simply managing the situation at hand. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I see many questions now in the chat box. Sourav, is this good time to go and get started with those questions and take up those questions? Sourav, you're on mute.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. We can.
Okay, great. But before we do that, any specific point that you would like to make out of your experience that you would want to share with our friends over here? And then, of course, we'll take up with question answers. Anything that you would like to share? Any specific stories, any specific examples or nuances that you believe are very important for us to know and would like to share?
Just a couple of points that I think will be important because we're talking about women in tech series. So I want to mention this. So one example I'll tell you. In my last job, we were presenting something to the board, and it's a big deal. I was in the CIO in that, presenting something to the board member. The chairman was going to come and sit. We were sitting in this U-shaped conference room.
Okay.
We were presenting, me and another colleague of mine, we were going to present. And instinctively, both of us women, instinctively, we left the center place for the board members to sit, and we sat on the sides. Immediately, when people came in and they sat in the seats, and our COO, she's a formidable woman, great mentor for me. She's been, she texted us, always center table, Rucha, always the center seat. Why are you not taking the seat that you do? You are presenting, you should be sitting at the center. So I would kind of, very important for us to understand that we shouldn't shortchange ourselves. The last thing you want to do, right, is you underplaying your role. Don't do that.
That's a very powerful message. That's a very powerful message.
I've taken that to heart. That I will be the last person. And what happens is we are sort of wired to be modest. Sometimes that does not help. Sometimes you got to be your own brand ambassadors, right? Especially when you're meeting brand new people. Who is going to tell them about yourself but you?
Absolutely.
So be your ambassadors, and don't never shortchange yourself. That is for sure. The other thing that has always helped me, and this has been with me even before I started getting into leadership roles, is I always understood how my work was impacting the big picture. Even when I was a software engineer and writing code, I always wanted to know the program I'm writing, how does it connect to the bigger picture, and how does it connect for the company, and how am I helping in the overall thing? And I think that sort of keeps me grounded. I know what the North Star is. And that is, I want to understand that it's really making a difference. It keeps you focused. It helps you prioritize really well as well.
Very well said. Very powerful message here, Rucha. And I would love my daughter to hear this, what you just mentioned, and maybe play this time and again for her. This is really fantastic. And I'm sure all our participants here, all our women colleagues here have heard this very loud and clear. This is fantastic. And women in leadership, we certainly want to kind of celebrate that as well. And also make sure that we encourage more and more our women colleagues to take up that center seat and really speak up and not underestimate yourself at all. I think that's very important. With that, I'll now kind of start taking questions which have been asked by our friends and colleagues here. Let's see what they have. Okay, Sourav, you may want to start looking at those questions. All right, I'll pick it up from here.
Yes, can I start with one?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So Rucha, the first question that has been asked by Meenakshi, she's asking how to balance the work life when someone is performing really well, but personally has gone through some kind of turmoil or financial crisis. So how you handle those situations in short term, and how you can overcome that?
Great question. I think as a leader, you may come across this. And as a person, I have come across this when I went through something in my life. And I remember how, I just mentioned it, right? I asked for taking a back seat a little bit for some time, and it was honored. And I would say we should continue to do that. And it wasn't just, I'll tell you, I think that's not just a function of a leader, but the leader will set the tone.
Yeah.
Right? The leader will set the tone that says, as a team, we are going to pick this up for someone. And I was very fortunate to work for people who did that for me at the time. So I would say, keep this in mind as a leader, as a colleague as well, that we all go through these times that are to be managed in some fashion, and encourage them not to give up. We do a little bit of our part, they'll do their part, and we come out of it together.
Thank you, Rucha. So another question that has come from my side actually while listening to you, you spoke about building rapport, having that trust, So do you consider that easy to work with is an important leadership skill, which is many a times underrated? Actually, we don't highlight it many a times.
I think leadership skill or not, easy to work with is very important. I believe in my dictionary, collaboration is my working style, collaboration is very high on the scale. As a leader, you're only as good or as bad as your team. You're only as fast or slow as your team. Now, if you're not collaborating well as a team, if your team is not easy to work with, if they are not gelling well, and by that, again, I don't mean you never say something that is conflicting, you never say something that is difference of opinions, they're all welcome. But yes, easy to work with is, given the same skill set, you have two people, who will you go to? If you have the exact same skill set and you need something done, you will go to the person who's easy to work with rather than someone who's always difficult, makes it challenging. The other side of it is, make sure we understand why somebody is being difficult. There may be a reason. As a leader, that also would be important to sort of dig out and say, why is this happening? Is there an inherent reason? Is there some, there could be technical issues, there could be some other issues, underlying. So being open about it will help as well. But being collaborative is always going to open more doors than not. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks.
This, so this is, go ahead, Sourav.
Yeah. So thanks, Rucha. I think that's very important to, not just for the leadership, for everyone, who are working in a team, maybe a team member or the, team leader. It's important for everyone. So I think the next question is very much relevant, very much important, I would rather say. Can you touch upon the art of, giving feedback when you are particularly women leader, and most of the colleagues that you are working with are, male counterparts, or maybe peers are male. So how do you handle those situations and do a, impactful feedback whenever you come across in such situations?
Okay, I think impactful feedback, I don't know if there's any difference between men and women. I think giving feedback is important. It is very important.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have not tried to adopt different styles for men and women. I have not had to. Don't know. But in general, I think providing feedback is very important. Providing wholesome feedback is important. Sometimes what we do is we human beings, we assume everything is good, so you only focus on what is not good, right? If I'm looking at a presentation, it is being presented because it is good. The idea is worth presenting. So I'm only going to say what is not good now. Let's go fix it. And we all have this tendency, especially for leaders who are short on time. We're always short on time. We want to make the most of it and make everything better. The feedback is, constructive feedback is important. And make sure that it's a balanced feedback. You want to make sure you, I believe in continuous feedback. So I find it very hard when it's like, here's the time, quarterly feedback, 6-monthly feedback, that's it. There and then is better than I make a list and say something later. The other very important thing I try to follow as much as possible is praise in public, criticize in private. When you have some really challenging feedback to give, and we all have as leaders, these are difficult tasks, right? Try and do that when you're having a one-on-one, that this was not right. We can do it better this way. We'll work on it together, right? So it is, that is one thing I try and remember, like as a thumb rule, try and do that. But I think people say that you always kind of start with a good thing and then you deliver the bad feedback and all that. I think it's a balancing act. Most people, if you're leading leaders, people are quite matured and they see right through
Absolutely.
that. So my approach usually is I'm very, very honest about it. I'm very genuine about it, that I felt this did not go well. Let's not do this again. I'm usually very genuine about it. I don't want to superficially and artificially sugarcoat things. Works for me, works for my style. As I said, we all have to find our own style. But in general, praise people in public. Do the difficult part in one-on-ones.
Very, very good. And I think sharing transparently, especially to the teams which are again aspiring leaders or leaders themselves, I think it's very important to tell them what the facts are, and of course also be on their side to be able to really take it forward if there are any challenges. Yes. That's very well said. One very interesting question has come up, Rucha, and it is saying, what are those 5 things that you do to be a CIO?
What are the 5 things that I do to be a CIO?
Yeah, how we've done this, and what is it that it is? What's your success formula here? That's being asked.
Wow. Okay. Very good question. What is my formula?
So the question asked by Nupur Priya, she's asking, I'm reading question as asked, so I don't misinterpret it in any way. 5 essential steps to work towards becoming a CIO, which can be implemented.
Very good. First of all, excellent question. I'm so proud of people who are so aware of what they want to do, right? Many times when I look back, I realize that for first, I think 7 or 10 years, I kind of did what came to me rather than understanding my own strengths. Then you start realizing, hey, I'm good at this. I should demand for what I'm good at or something like that, right? So I'm very proud of this generation that's coming up and say, I know what I want and, driven toward it. It is excellent. It is excellent. I would say these are the top things that have helped me get to where I have gotten. One is I already mentioned. I always know how I'm contributing, right? As I said, even when I was an individual contributor doing some small job in a company, I had my, line of sight on how this is helping the company. How is my work contributing to that? It always helped me focus my efforts. Second thing is, I'm a lifelong learner. I think I still find that there's more technology reading and learning to be done than I possibly can. So I'm a lifelong learner. That's second thing that has helped me. Third, I'd say treat people well. I truly believe it is all about people. If you want to be in leadership positions, it is all about people. Treat them the way you want to be treated, right? I believe empathy and emotional intelligence helps. Today's leaders cannot be just about the subject matter expertise and not about team dynamics. You have to understand team dynamics. right? So emotional intelligence, important to sort of, if you are not very naturally that way, I think it's a skill that can be learned. So please do that. How many did I say? Did I say 5 or more?
No, 4, still 1 to go.
Okay, 1 more to go.
I'm not able to hear Rucha. Am I? Is it just with me or?
Yeah, I can't hear you, Rucha. Rucha, can you please check your? Rucha, can you please check your mic?
We can't hear you, Rucha.
So we may be having some technical issues from her side.
Yeah.
Can you please try to re-log in if that's or see?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me or not yet?
Yes. Now we can.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay, so I was at 4, right? Up to 4, we were good.
Yes. So that is interesting comment. Someone is telling us that the 5th success recipe could be, be silent whenever it is required. What you meant to be.
That's a great one.
Yes.
That's a great one.
Especially good for people who are so talkative, especially who are so talkative, like me. I think I would say 5th is I'm pretty open about my mistakes. I own it up, and that helps. That sort of shows sincerity, and most people say that I'm quite sincere in whatever I do, and that has helped me build relationships that are very lasting, and people tend to sort of come together with that. Good old hard work also never fails, by the way. I don't believe in taking shortcuts. So yes, smart work, not necessarily just slogging, but yes, I worked hard for this.
Great. One very pertinent question which has come up is, how do you manage when you're not getting enough support from your boss? That is becoming hindrance to the growth, even after being successful, leading a team successfully. So how do you handle such situations? And I think this is
Excellent question. So when we are coming across this, right, one thing we didn't get a lot of chance to talk about is, as you are growing in your career, you always have to understand that it is not just about, having network or managing vertically. Make sure you are networking and you are building these relationships and collaboration across the board,
right,
in different functions. Say, for example, you are a technology leader, right? Make sure you are building your connections in your business, in your functional areas, in other areas, right? Because then that opens up avenues for other ways of achieving success, and not just in that particular, not just with your boss, right? I also hope that most organizations have sort of non-hierarchical approaches where you can go and talk to your boss's boss as well. And that is one other thing, how to complain without complaining. Something to think about, right? I've learned this from one of my ex-bosses is, don't just come with a problem. At least think about what could potential solutions be at any point when you're describing it. So what could be the potential solutions? That's a problem, right? We're not getting a lot of support from someone. What could be the potential options for it? Can I go work in a different group? I have done that. I've made lateral move and then done that. Can I go to my boss's boss and see if I can get a different assignment? I go talk to the boss as well, that what is not working. That's the transparency, the trust. Am I working in a place where my strengths are not being utilize. Sometimes we may think we are doing fantastic until you maybe ask and, pry a little bit, what is not going well, please tell me, what can I improve? And you may get some feedback. So multiple ways to look at it, but you have to try these avenues as well. And very important, I'll stress again, do make your network, your connections, your web of friends and colleagues at work. I was naturally not very good at it, but I understand the importance of networking.
Right.
So yeah, Rucha, I think that's a very good food for thought for for our next.
Absolutely.
Yeah, networking and collaboration. Maulik bhai, that could be the next topic. That
yes, absolutely.
Must do. I think women are not good. I still am not super comfortable, but I have sort of learned to put myself in situations where doesn't matter. Let's go and give it a shot, and we talk, and then we
that's a very good point and subject to talk on. And there are many questions here, Rucha, that have really come up. And I'll just take one more and last one, possibly because we are running over time. I know it's too late at your end as well, if I'm not sure.
No worries. I'm actually going to work for a few more hours. So no worries on my
Okay. All right. Okay. What challenges have you really faced when empowering the team and putting this into Indian context, right? Are there specific challenges that you have really faced, and what are the changes that an organization really should bring to make it happen?
I don't think specific challenges. It is about changing the culture a little bit at a time, right? As I said, nothing intentional as such. That's a challenge necessarily. I do find diversity. We have to make a conscious effort on diversity. I came from an organization where, if we hired 25% of the women, by the time we got to leadership ladders, we were 40%. So there's a really good ratio of that. Here, I think I'm putting in a lot more effort to do that. I want to hire women. I want to have that diversity ratio. I want to make sure we're all driving toward that.
Right.
Empowering, I think sometimes you see that people are a little more hierarchical, and I'm trying to change that as well. I'll give you one a quick example, a little bit of chuckle maybe toward the end, is that my first day at job, and somebody starts asking me a question in a town hall and says, ma'am, you've come from US. I was like, stop. Please do not call me ma'am. Rucha, I'm going to call you by first name. You call me by first name. We are all at work. We are all equal. So that's small.
Sure. Which again, we have lost your audio. If you could check again. Not audible, Rucha. We lost again your audio, unfortunately. Yeah, so can't hear.
Still again?
Now we are okay. Back. Go back.
Bummer. So you heard my comment about ma'am, though, right?
Yes, we did. We did. And there's a classic question which comes to mind of many of our women colleagues and friends, is that they are aspiring women leaders, right? However, they see that the leadership is not so overall, where you see more male leaders than female leaders, right? How do you really break that and present yourself that you're an aspiring leader, and how do you really put yourself on the track with that being the scenario?
Yes. At the cost of really being repetitive.
Yes.
Speak up. And when I say speak up, not just at work to say, I want to be, a CIO in a few years or something, even at home. Because it takes work. It takes work from everyone, right? A man's career also takes work. A woman's career also takes work from everybody. So I would say, please speak up that your ambition is such and such with your colleagues, with your your superiors, your bosses, and even at home, that your ambition is such and such, right? A man doesn't reach somewhere if their family are not supportive. If you really have to, reach heights. Same is true for women as well, right? I am at this place because my family has been very supportive, from parents to husband to everybody. So that is important. So don't keep your ambitions to yourself is the very first step. Very, very first step.
Fantastic. I think that sums up our discussion today very well. Those few good fine points that you made, Rucha, towards the end. And it has been great pleasure hearing you, talking with you. Thanks so much for joining with us today. And I'm sure all our audiences, all our participants have really enjoyed it so much. And I'm sure they take away a lot today after our discussion today. At least, in my honest opinion, there have been very good thought-provoking points that you have made.
Appreciate it very much.
And we truly loved it, Rucha. And I'm sure, and as I see messages coming from our participants, our friends and colleagues here, they're phenomenal. They're really, really very inspired by your talk today. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. And we look forward to having you again on a different subject, maybe this at a larger, on a larger forum as well, as we keep continuing to drive our efforts towards bringing women in leadership. Thank you so very much, Rucha.
Thank you so much.
You've been phenomenal. You've been phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope it was enjoyable for everybody. And I look forward to, if anybody has any questions, connect on LinkedIn, reach out. I'm happy to, help. So thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Great chatting with you, Maulik and Sourav.
And Sourav, any final words that you may have, Sourav?
No, not really, Maulik bhai. I think Rucha has been, phenomenal, and we did have a lovely session, and hopefully, our participants are also equally excited to have her today. And I believe that there is many more to come, and along with Rucha in future. And thanks, Rucha. And next time, maybe when things open up, we will like to have you in person sometime.
Exactly.
Our audience, so that it will be more lively. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks again. And
thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Take good care. Thank you. Best wishes to you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.